So, dating slash family planning when you're not quite established yet, but will be soon.
Well, in life and in business, your revenues must always exceed your expenses. And so when you're old enough to work, something that I didn't learn till later in life and I really didn't apply for a long time, I was not good or diligent with this. And it's something called pay yourself first. So no matter how much money, if you got a business or you're working, just earning money from your job, no matter how much money you got coming in, you can pretty much always spend it. In a business, you can always buy more computers, buy more advertising, hire more people, buy more office furniture, computer equipment, phone equipment, software, whatever. There's always more stuff that you can spend money on. And so what you always should do, whether you're going to get married or whatever, is you're going to earn a certain amount of money every month. And so say you earn $5,000 a month. Well, if you earn $5,000 a month, 20% of that, which would be $1,000, comes off the top. And that gets put away in the stocks, investments, Roth IRA, retirement accounts, gets put aside as money to invest in real estate if you're a real estate investor, dividend paying stocks, crypto, whatever it happens to be. And you're not allowed to spend that money. And, because the idea is over the course of your life, you're always going to take 20% of whatever you earn every month and it gets put away for investments that, because like give you an example, like a dividend paying stock. And so like one of the stocks I've got pays, I think it's just under 7%. And I got another one that pays close to 10%. And the stock prices don't really go anywhere, but the companies are old, they're very stable, and they just make money.
Hmm.
And so what happens when you buy that stock is that, usually every quarter, depending on the stock, is you're going to get your dividends. In other words, you buy a stock, now you're an owner. And when you own a company, you get profits.
Right.
And so that's what a dividend is that the excess profits that the company takes in are distributed amongst the shareholders or the owners of that particular business. And if you own stock in that company and they pay a dividend, then some of those stocks in your online interface where you trade, you can just select yes to reinvest the dividend. And so and what's nice about the couple stocks that, I'm talking about two different ones in particular that are, really good and have been, is that the stock price never goes anywhere,
Hmm.
but they always earn a nice, really good, steady dividend. And so when that dividend is 6.8%, 7%, or 9.8% comes in, the system automatically buys more stock.
Yeah.
And so, when you let that go over, 2, 3, 4 decades, where all the profit just buys more of the stock and the stock doesn't really go anywhere, it's exponentially. That's why when you get older, you have so much money coming in from dividends and stocks that have appreciated significantly in value that you can live off of your interest.
Hmm.
But if you're somebody that always spends 100% of your money that comes in, then when you get to that point, you're going to be you're going to have nothing. You're going to be
Yeah.
living paycheck to paycheck, and then you're going to be one of those, old people in the grocery store that's bagging groceries because they can't make enough money to pay their bills. And so the younger you start, the more exponential the growth is, in the latter years when you get older, because you got so many decades of that interest compounding and then the interest being reinvested in more, in other words, you're getting money and you're buying income. You're getting money, you're buying income. You're getting money, you're buying income. You're not getting
Hmm.
money and then buying a wallet or a perch from
Right.
Coach or a new car or a
Hmm.
second car or a boat or whatever. That, so if you make, back to what I was saying, if you make 5 grand a month, the $1,000 comes off the top and that leaves you with 4 grand.
Hmm.
Whatever's left, you make your car payment, your rent payment, you travel, you have fun, whatever. But that first $1,000 you pay yourself first, that gets put aside. And again, you don't ever touch it until you get to a point in your life and you're not going to work anymore.
Hmm.
And so that should, first and foremost, that always needs to happen. And when I was younger, I didn't know that. It wasn't until I think the first time I learned that was probably in my early 30s. And, I always did well, always made good money. And so I always figured, a couple more years, things will be turned around. I'll put a lot more aside. And the reality is as the economy goes up and down, you got the boom bust cycle, you got life emergencies or whatever. if you don't discipline yourself to put that 20% away, then you're going to be like most Americans. I think it's something like 65, 70% of most Americans don't even have $1,000 in their checking account for
Mhm.
emergencies.
Yeah.
They That's the majority of the country doesn't even have $1,000 in their bank account. They're
Mhm.
just constantly paycheck to paycheck. And when you look at wealthy people as a whole, that's the difference is like they don't piss all their money away. They constantly reinvest it. They delay gratification
Mhm.
until they're a little bit older and the cash flow is coming in and then they might buy a nice piece of real estate or a bigger property because they've got so much positive income and cash flow coming in because of the decades of compounding interest that it makes it really easy to buy a nice fat house. And if the economy's up, the economy's down, doesn't really matter because the cash flow is still coming in. And so if you're gonna, back to the original question of budgeting, well, 20% of whatever you make comes off the top and the rest you can spend.
Mhm.
And so if you got other things, maybe you're saving for a house, well, the 20% comes off the top and again, that gets put away because that's retirement money.
Right.
And so if you're left with 4 grand, well, out of that 4 grand, that's how you pay your rent, you pay your normal bills, and whatever's ideally you want to reduce your expenses as much as possible. So say you need $10,000 to buy a house,
Yeah.
and maybe you got 12 months to save. So what is that? Eight, seven, $800 a month that you need to save in order to, after 12 months, end up at about 10 grand.
Mhm.
So you got a budget, and so if you got 5 grand a month and $1,000 is you're paying yourself first, and you're left with four, and you need to save $800 a month extra to buy whatever it is you want to buy 12 months down the road, well, then that leaves you with $3,200 to pay all your bills. You got $1,000 to pay yourself.
Mhm.
You got the $800 that you're saving. Now you got $3,200 to live off of and pay all your bills. And you just have to discipline yourself and stay within that budget. And
Mhm.
your choice is you either increase your revenue by earning more money or you got to reduce your expenses until your amounts get in line. And
Yeah.
that's what you have to do.
Yeah. What if they're making way less than 5,000 though?
You got to live within your means.
Mm.
Live like a broke college student. Get a smaller house, get roommates, move to an area that is not as expensive. You might have a longer commute to work, but at least you're not going to break the bank where you're living.
Yeah.
If you got a business and you constantly spend more than you make, you're going to go bankrupt.
Mhm.
If you constantly spend more money, say you spend all of your salary and then on top of that you're borrowing money on credit cards to live off of and pay bills, well eventually you're going to max out your credit cards and then you're not going to be able to borrow any more money and then you're going to be paying, double, 18, 20, 25% interest on this stuff. And then if you're paying 24% interest on a credit card and you got $1,000 sitting on that, just the interest that accumulates over the course of the year, that's $250 in interest.
Right.
And if you got $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 and you're paying 24% interest, that's why a lot of people get stuck in debt traps, debt spirals, is that just making the minimum payments doesn't reduce their balance. It just, in a lot of cases, just pays the bare minimum interest.
Yeah.
And eventually the people, they run out of money. They can't afford to pay it, and then they walk away from it. And
Mhm.
they have a bankruptcy or they wreck their credit. And if they need to finance anything, that makes it next to impossible unless you got a lot of money to put down to do. So your revenue's got to exceed your expenses.
Mhm.
And if you can't reduce your expenses, you got to increase your revenue. If you can't increase your revenue, then you're going to have to cut things out
Right.
until your budget gets in line.
Mhm. Yeah, it's not easy living in today's day, especially in South Florida. Got to have like three different ways of income in order to survive.
Yeah, it's like the gig economy.
I've been seeing that like on TikTok. Um, like young people, like 20-year-olds are finding different kinds of ways of income. Like something so simple, they just create their own brand or just a small little, I don't know, like tactic, like the things that you put on the back of your phone. Something silly like that, and they use it as like their side income. And then they have their actual job, and then there's like a side hustle or something like that.
Well, I mean, we were talking before we started filming about your nails,
Mm-hmm.
and you've got a significant amount of people that follow you on TikTok,
Yeah.
and you have a decent size Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And so you get basically your nails done
Mm-hmm.
as part of a brand deal, I guess you would call that.
Right.
And so because you have access to an audience, you in essence can advertise for free by just putting a post up and saying, "Hey, go to my friend that does these nails," and then you show them a picture, and
Right.
so she does your nails, but she gets a significant amount of business from other women that go in there because they thought your nails were amazing,
Yeah.
and that's a little perk to you.
Mm-hmm.
And so you've taken your little side hustle of growing your social media is something that you naturally do and you naturally did for fun.
Mm-hmm.
And there are enough women that like you and follow you. They like your beauty tips, they like your fashion tips. You show them your nails.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they want to kind of be like Caroline, so they go to the same nail salon that you go to, and it's
Yeah.
good for everybody. And
I
it's
wish
like,
I got paid for that. Like,
well,
hey.
if you're as your audience gets bigger,
Yeah.
and you look at, we were talking about what's her name, Kylie Jenner or whatever. I mean, those girls get just for posting. It could be a purse, it could be nails, it could be some makeup stuff, or use serum to make your wrinkles go away or whatever. I mean, they get paid like millions of dollars for one post
Right.
because they got tens and millions of people that follow them, and so
Mm-hmm.
girls that follow them for beauty and skin tips and hair tips and all that other stuff. And
Right.
so they have the ability. It's like you think about the old days, it's like that's what a newspaper had or a TV station had,
Mm-hmm.
where they've got access to the eyeballs. And so
Right.
if you want to put your advertisement or your message in front of their eyeballs, they would charge you a percentage of money to reach a certain amount of eyeballs.
Yeah.
And so I mean, that's what's kind of cool over the last few decades is
Mm-hmm.
that didn't even exist. And as you go through life and you continue to do these things, and your audience continues to grow, and those women and men that follow you are the ones that really like you will stick with you, and your audience continues to grow
Right.
10, 15, 20 years from now. I mean, maybe 5, 10 years from now, you're doing stuff about, hey, buy this baby crib and get 10% off, or
Yeah.
buy this really cute baby toy for your little girl and get 5% off. And
Yeah.
here's the Caroline 123 special code to get the sale price on it. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's a side business that just came from the fact that you're into cameras and making videos and stuff like that and taking pictures. It was a hobby that has turned into a little side income that you get perks from that. You get little brand deals,
Right. And it's fun. I
and it's
enjoy it.
fun.
Yep.